Hey, Brian here with DIY Outdoor Life. Today I'm going to show you kind of a silly little mod or a little trick that I figured out that produces results that are anything but silly. I got some major results that's going to put money in my pocket doing this, so I'm excited to show you some tips and tricks today to keep your tongue box cool. So I've said this before and I'll say it again, this oversized tongue box on the hiker trailer is one of my favorite accessories or modifications. I have a large Truma fridge in here and I have a battery compartment that holds some electronics for charging on the other side. Now, something both of these things have in common is neither the fridge nor your electronics want to be baked. They don't want to sit out in the sun. So this little trick that I learned that's super cheap, you don't have to have this tongue box to take advantage of this. I'm going to be doing the same thing on the Bushwhacker, even though it just has my battery compartment in there. Either way, this is a tip to keep these things a lot cooler, and it's going to save us a lot of money. So I discovered this problem a couple weeks ago. I came over here to make lunch and this box was literally burning my hand when I touched it. I mean, it was an oven with the sun baking down on this. Now you guys know I like my gizmos, so I have a non-contact thermometer in my tool bag. It was getting between 160 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit. That is way too hot to think about a refrigerator running in there, your charge controllers, your wires. Those things are producing their own heat. So this is a serious issue that you definitely want to address. I know some of you are gonna laugh at me, but I am gonna pitch a little product here. I got this little device. It's a thermal camera that plugs into an iPhone or an Android. These used to be really expensive and the price has come way down on these. I will link this. When you plug that into your phone, you get to see a color coordinated thermal image. It tells you the temperature of everything on the screen. Anyone who did electronics used to have something like this because I can go work on someone's solar setup. In a matter of seconds, I can see if a conductor isn't as large in its gauge as it needs to be, or if there's a loose connection. All of those things show up with heat, and this thing makes it really easy. But with the cheaper versions that plug into your phone, I'm using it all the time. So I shot images of this before and after. I shielded it from the sun. Even in the winter, you can see when the heat's going through your window on your camper and what a big difference a curtain makes. So this thing's really cool, but I'll get back on topic here. So while I was looking to fix this, I was actually out camping and doing a little brainstorming. Some of the problems are obvious. It's a large metal black box. It's gonna get hot when you put it out in the sun. But the problem is compounded with my fixed panel here. So I'm always actually pointing this towards the sun. It doesn't help me when I get this section of the trailer in a shaded area. So naturally, we could paint this thing white. That would help a ton. Henry's makes a product called like EnviroCool. They have a Tropicool. It's actually a white paint designed to cool a surface down. They use it on roofing. But I like the aesthetic of the box as it is. I really didn't want to paint it a different color. One option would be to cut some vents in. I could cut a high vent and a low vent. Heat rises, that'll move the air. That will do a good job. You could put an automotive 12-volt fan in there. You could use a PC fan. They have thermostats for those. I could do a more involved project here, and I might do that down the road, but that's where I actually discovered a really simple fix that I actually had with me on this camping trip. So this little guy here is designed to be a reflective layer for a windshield, but it's actually designed for a giant motorhome. It packs up really easy and you can stuff it between things when you're packing. But I use this to cover coolers. I use this to put over portable power stations when they're sitting out in the sun and I'm solar charging. I bought one of these years ago and I'll link this exact size for the one that I have. It's got magnets on it and little Velcro strips that are designed to go around the side view mirrors. This one is designed to go on the outside of the motorhome. So this can handle weather. And it has those Velcro strips and magnets that come in handy all the time. So I actually think this thing looks really good. You might disagree, but function over form here. You're not gonna believe how well this thing works. I fold the corner like a present, and I'll include in my description some rare earth magnets. Even though this comes with magnets built in, these rare earth magnets are really secure, and I use them for a whole bunch of things. So there's a nice air gap that forms underneath this. This does have a little bit of insulation in it. If you have a hiker like mine, you can install your little Valterra clips underneath this, turn your vent on, and it moves air actually underneath this cover. But that's all for extra. The basic performance of this is gonna blow your mind. So it takes me about 1 minute to throw this on when I get at camp. If you had more rare earth magnets, or you really had to, I'm sure that you could secure this well enough to actually drive with it on, but I haven't tried that yet. As far as its performance and how it works, it went from 160 to 170 underneath this, back down to about 5 or 10 degrees above air temp. I had it down under 100 degrees. So over a 60-degree drop in the surface of this tongue box. That little thermal camera helped a lot. I covered half of it and checked out a whole bunch of things to actually see the performance. This reflects almost all of the light off the box. With the air gap and the little insulation in here, it did exactly what I hoped it would do. But the real performance didn't show up until I looked at my battery monitor and my solar charge controller, which both have Bluetooth apps. When I first got this camper and was doing some spring camping, I was using about 250 watt hours a day. That's a really important number to know if you're into boondocking. Almost all of that consumption comes from the fridge. I run fans, I charge my phone, the water pump, but the fridge is the one that's using most of the power. When I went out to my first spot when it was wide open, right out in the sun, my numbers immediately jumped over 500 watt hours a day. The battery consumption doubled from the heat beating down on this box. The fridge is working harder. That means it's gonna wear out faster. The charge controller needs to do more work to replace the battery that's going to the fridge. That produces heat. As the fridge runs more, it expels heat into the box. So I'm always trying to open the door and allow some of that heat to vent. But in the same weather conditions, in the same camping spot, when I threw this on, the next day, and for all of the days since then, I've dropped back down between 250 and 300 watt hours a day. This cheap little device that you can get on Amazon and a couple magnets actually cut my battery consumption in half, doubling the time that I could go boondocking and taking a ton of wear and tear off my most expensive components, batteries, electronics, and the refrigerator. So in the video description, I'll give you a couple options for the same size. I'm gonna be using one just like this on my bushwhacker. I'll fold that over top of the tongue box to keep the batteries cool. Looking on some of the Facebook groups, I saw that during this heat wave, some people tripped the high temperature sensor on their lithium battery. That is bad news. So I can't encourage this enough. The rare earth magnets, we use those on everything. This stupid little camera here that some of you are gonna pick on me for, I promise you that if you get into camper maintenance, having a cheap little thermal camera for your phone makes everything a lot easier when you're diagnosing problems. But please share your ideas with me. I know I'm not the first person to have some issues here, and I'd love to hear how you solved yours. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.